Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock, they're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite parts. So many movies we can't choose, even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other, please have a word to your mother. They're from the best decades, movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast.
All right, guys, are we recording? I think the recording started.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I never said that.
Anyone found Henry?
I've checked. I didn't say anything that you thought I said.
I don't say anything. I would never say that. It reflects bad on my parentage.
Yes. Speaking of reflecting, I'm enjoying this tinfoil hat I'm wearing.
I think it comes through on an audio medium very well.
It should. Yeah. It's very crinkly. Here, we'll do a little ASMR for the people at home.
Oh Lord.
There you go.
Oh boy.
If I had longer fingernails, I could tap them on the. Here, we'll do that. Yeah, there we go. Man, our YouTube channel is just going to go through the roof. We're going to make all kinds of money off this.
I think not. But
Now that we've started, 3 middle-aged white guys doing ASMR on a YouTube channel.
Oh,
yeah, that's definitely what people want in their life.
That's one step up from my kids telling me I should start an OnlyFans so I can pay for their college.
Oh
no.
God. I don't even. Boy. There are not words, is what I'm trying to say.
You know.
And what are you? Okay, you know what? We're not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna ask a question.
How do you even? Yeah.
I'm gonna get sport.
Okay,
corporate.
no, both thinking the same thing. Okay, so what are you supposed to? How?
I'm gonna get corporate sponsorship from Foot Locker. Is what I'm gonna do.
Huh?
Yeah.
I thought that's where you were gonna go, and I just really didn't want you to.
I did. You know, I had somebody for almost an entire day at work. I had somebody convinced I had webbed feet.
What do you do there? All the stories you told us about work today have been totally ridiculous.
So what I'd like to first comment on is thank you, because I didn't count it, but like the good, I don't know, 3 seconds of silence is the right response.
Yeah. So what? So John, what's really going on with the people you work with? Well, never mind.
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe your OnlyFans that you could like. Maybe what you could do would be like.
I love that we're brainstorming this now.
You could
you almost gotta at this point, right?
You could be like tech helping. You know what I'm saying? Like you could be talking to the camera and like somehow tech helping. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, how to put a round peg in a square hole. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's a different kind of OnlyFans channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not. Maybe you're right.
I could mash up the worlds, and I could do like ASMR tech help. I could be, I could be like tapping my fingernails on the edge of the microphone and just be like, so did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in? Could do that. Bo, what do you think about this? You work in the tech world. Do you think it could take off?
I don't know, man. That's some crazy, wild, wacky stuff we're talking about here.
How do we transition from this to Nixon? I don't know.
Aren't we already there?
We're already
he
there.
had some wild, wacky stuff going on himself.
I mean, I really, truly am wearing a tinfoil hat, so we're already there.
He is, folks. In case you think we're just sort of messing with you.
No, this is happening. This is happening.
I'll post a picture on our social medias so people can see that this is how we talk about all of our Stone movies. So, all right. Well, I don't know how to transition from OnlyFans to Nixon, although I guarantee there's some channel out there somewhere. I hear somebody tapping. You're not Googling that, are you?
Yeah,
no,
definitely not.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Absolutely
Good.
not.
Please don't.
That would
No,
Please don't.
no.
I am not a crook. Now like and subscribe.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Oh man, I don't know what to say about what I'm experiencing right now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thankfully, we're in a bowling alley and we're safe for the time being.
But are you really ever safe in a?
No.
That's also true.
No.
Oh dear.
All of my videos
dear,
are
dear.
perfectly safe. Here's one of my little dog Chester. Yeah.
Oh my, my.
Anyway, all right. Well, Nixon is our movie tonight. That's what we're talking about, and we spoil freely. We've probably already spoiled your evening, but we spoil freely. So if we start to mention a movie and you don't want to hear anything about it, maybe just hit the little skip button there and move on just a bit. You can visit our website 30podcast.com if you haven't already been scared away by us. You can leave us a rating, a voicemail. You could become a co-executive. If you enjoy our brand of madness, then you can become a co-executive producer with us over on Patreon and hear more of our brand of madness.
I believe the correct way to describe this, if you want to be indoctrinated into our system,
yes,
come to our.
Yes, if you two, maybe we can get. You know what? Here's the thing. My sister works for a company which makes aluminum foil. I bet we could get branded tinfoil hats and maybe put them on our merchandise store.
Now we're talking.
30-something movie podcast. Tinfoil hats. Put it in there,
Yes.
man. Put it in there.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the profit that we're going to make? Because all I'm going to do is put like a sheet of tinfoil, and it's a make your own tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
To make your own. Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Yes.
You know what I'll do? I'll throw in a 30. I'll throw in a 30 podcast sticker. So if you want to put a 30 podcast sticker on your tinfoil hat, you can totally do that.
Oh, God.
Man.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm really truly thinking about it.
Oh, I don't know how internet or technology works, but I think if we have a store that we can put things in, 30-something movies podcast tinfoil hats would be outstanding.
I think it's pretty easy to mail foil.
And my holiday shopping for my family is now done.
There you go. You're totally done now.
So we're good.
You're totally done now. Buy the family a book on conspiracy theories. Buy them a 30 podcast tinfoil hat, and then you've got everything covered.
Done and doneer.
There you go. And they also protect from our future AI overlords. So you have everything you need right here.
They signify that we're in connection with our future AI overlords.
Right. And if you shape it just right, now I know Nixon and his mother were supposed to be Quakers. If you shape it just right, you can make it look like a little Quaker bonnet. So, and thee will be protected from the insanity outside.
From the father, that whole scene.
Yeah, thou art protected from thy conspiracies.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun family scene. We'll get into it, but yeah, that's and you think some of your Thanksgiving dinners are awkward,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got nothing on the Nixons.
Mm-hmm. Dear Lord, thank you for the bounty that we are about to receive, and thank you for the whooping that this other boy is about to receive.
Seriously though, when was the last time you guys wore a bloody apron to the dinner table? I just,
no comment.
I want to know.
Yeah, no comment. It was a rough day back at work. We'll just put it that way. Actually wasn't. It was relatively quiet. But all right. So Nixon, this movie came out December 22nd, 1995. Oh, Merry Christmas, 95. This movie is the gift that keeps on
Figured
giving.
everyone would want to get away from their family, and they'd want a 3-hour epic.
Right. A 3-hour epic. So, yes, this is the movie that is the gift that keeps on giving at Christmas time in 1995. 3 hours and 12 minutes, rated R. Directed by Oliver Stone. He was director of JFK and Platoon. Writers were Oliver Stone, Christopher Wilkinson, and Stephen J. Revell. Stone did Born on the 4th of July, Natural Born Killers. Wilkinson and Revell did Ali and Copying Beethoven. Producers were Oliver Stone, Clayton Townsend, and Andrew G. Vajna. Oliver Stone produced Natural Born Killers and The Doors. Townsend produced Born on the 4th of July and The Doors. And Vajna did Total Recall and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, where no one was killed. Things were just spiced up a little bit. Composer was John Williams for this one, did Star Wars and Jurassic Park. Cinematographer was Robert Richardson, who did The Aviator and Django Unchained. Editor was Hank Corwin, who did The Big Short and Vice. Also, Brian Burden, who did Natural Born Killers and The Tree of Life. Synergy Pictures Entertainment did this one. Budget was $44 million. Box office was $13.7 million. So, yeah. Sometimes with conspiracies, they say follow the money. But what if there is no money?
Does make you wonder.
Well, what if the movie makes no money? Flickmetrics gives it a 71%, and CinemaScore gives it a B. Anthony Hopkins play. Okay, let's play a little game here. I don't have I wanted like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music when they turn the lights down and it goes the dun kind of a thing. I don't have it, so I'm going to do that with my voice. Let's play a game here. Before I read off the actors, the characters, and the other movies they've been in, let's play a little game, and I want you guys to see how many points you can get. Name an actor who was not in this movie.
Kevin Costner.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Final answer?
Yes.
I think you're correct. Not 100% sure, but I think you're correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I give you maybe a point for that one.
I'll take it.
All right. Patrick?
Harrison Ford.
Are you sure about that?
I'd like to use my phone a friend.
Okay. Who would you like to phone?
Bo.
I'd go with it.
Okay.
I'm feeling good.
All right. Harrison Ford.
Final answer?
Final answer.
You are correct. You have found the two actors who are not in this movie.
Well, we are movie podcasters. I mean, you know.
Otherwise, everyone else in Hollywood is in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pat, the only answer, when I asked you what friend you wanted to phone, the only answer that would have been even better than Bo would have been if you had said, I would like to phone Harrison Ford.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome.
I think we should have called Jeff or Dennis, woke them up from whatever they're doing and been like, is Harrison Ford in Nixon?
What the heck are you waking me up for?
What are you talking about?
Hey guys, it's an emergency.
Honestly, I don't know how the technology would work because I'm casting pod from my phone, but we should totally call them right now. Okay, we're going to use this bit. We're going to plan this and figure out we have to do that.
We'll do this some other time and
Because that's a good bit.
That would be fun.
That would be outstanding.
That would be fun. Yeah. Oh, if you could call Harrison Ford, that would be amazing too.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But
Look, kid, it was the mid-'90s. I don't even know what I was in. So anyway.
I reject your stupid question.
There you go.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know why you're waking me up in the middle of the night. I reject this stupid question. I might have been in the movie. I don't know. Anthony Hopkins played Richard Nixon. He was in The Silence of the Lambs and The Remains of the Day. Not the same movie. Ooh, that'd be fun, though, if a Silence of the Lambs movie was called The Remains of the Day. Well, my God. It's just a movie about Hannibal Lecter's leftovers. The Remains of the Day.
Yeah.
Found a little bit of that pink residue around the tub, but...
Yeah. Hello, Clarice. Can I get this in a to-go box?
Oh, no. Oh, kid.
What's in the box? Leftovers. That's a fun movie mashup. Anyway, okay. Joan Allen played Pat Nixon, or Buddy. as she was known to Richard. She was in The Crucible and The Contender. Powers Booth, who passed away in 2017, plays Alexander Haig. He was in Tombstone and Sin City, and he was just looking absolutely capital in this movie. Ed Harris played E. Howard Hunt. He was in Apollo 13 and The Truman Show. Bob Hoskins, who passed in 2014, played J. Edgar Hoover. He was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Mona Lisa. E.G. Marshall, who passed in 1998, played John Mitchell. He was in 12 Angry Men and The Defenders. David Paymer played Ron Ziegler. He was in Mr. Saturday Night and Quiz Show. David Hyde Pierce was John Dean. He was in Frasier and A Bug's Life. I'm going to stop at this one because this next gentleman who passed in 2022 is in one of my favorite movies. He's in The Rocketeer. And
The Rocket Who?
The Rocket Who. And he does such an amazing job in this movie. He does not look, because I did like multiple double takes. I did like sextuple tapes.
Hey, what now?
That's 3 double takes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not back on
I
the
was
old.
like, wait a minute.
No,
My brain can't handle this stuff.
we're
What
not
did
back
you
on the
do?
channel we were talking about earlier. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Henry Kissinger, played by Paul Sorvino.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if I was going to give, we don't typically give an award for like the best actor in the entire movie. I almost feel like I need to, and I need to give it to Paul Sorvino because he does an amazing job as Henry Kissinger. And I completely forgot. I look at all these other people and I'm like, yeah, that's Anthony Hopkins playing Richard Nixon. That's Joan Allen playing Pat Nixon. That's Powers Booth. That's Ed Harris. That's David Hyde Pierce. I look at Paul Sorvino and I completely forgot multiple times that was Paul Sorvino.
Yes.
So he's not alive now, but if he was to win the award, I would say, good job, Mr. Sorvino, and here's your award.
We're going to give it to him posthumously.
Yes, posthumously.
Yes.
I think that's the British spelling. There's like an extra I in there.
Yeah, it could be.
Yes.
And schedule.
Yes. But in England, posthumously is spelled with an I. Yes. It's not the same. I feel like this tinfoil hat has spread to you guys, and we're just kind of goofy this episode.
Kinda?
A little bit.
Wait till we actually start talking about the movie plots.
I know, right? Yeah. Mary Steenburgen plays Hannah Nixon. She was in Melvin Howard and Back to the Future Part 3. James Woods played H.R. Haldeman. He was in Salvador and Casino. J.T. Walsh, who passed in 1998, played John Ehrlichman. He was in A Few Good Men and Breakdown. Larry Hagman, who passed in 2012, played Jack Jones. He was in Dallas and I Dream of Jeannie. Madeline Kahn. Thank you. Okay. Used to be my ringtone for a while. Madeline Kahn, who passed in 1999, played Martha Mitchell.
Whoa.
So tired. She was in Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. And then Kevin Dunn played Charles Coulson. He was in Transformers and Dave. Anthony Hopkins watched nearly every speech Nixon ever gave on tape multiple times, consulted people who had personally known Nixon to really kind of get the character down. There was a scene in which they had, I guess Nixon's, one of his favorite movies was Patton from 1970. There was a scene where they were going to be planning to have him watch the movie because it was his favorite one. And it kind of like it talked about it having a parallel between his philosophies and Patton's speech about the refusal to lose war. And so they had planned this, but George C. Scott would not relinquish his image rights. So they were not able to use that in the movie. Writer, producer, and director Oliver Stone admitted that he voted for Nixon in 1968. And it was based on his pledge to end the Vietnam War at the time. So,
Yeah.
let's see. Oh, Anthony Hopkins, initially, this was kind of interesting. I guess Paul Sorvino gave him some advice that his Nixon accent or the way he was doing the voice was not good. And so he initially quit the movie. Anthony Hopkins quit the movie. He's like, well, okay, if I'm not going to do this in a way that is realistic and one of my co-stars is criticizing me for it, then I guess I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this if it's not going to come across as being, accurate. Oliver Stone
I'm glad no
convinced
one
him.
got stompy.
Well, yeah. Oliver Stone convinced him to come back, and Hopkins actually went on to earn an Oscar nomination for his performance as Richard Nixon. Let's see. Oh, there's a couple of other people that I did not even mention that were in this movie because everyone was in this movie. Sam Waterston is in this movie as Richard Helms. And that was another great part, his character. in that. Yeah, he did not. The real Helms was still alive, I guess. And it was those scenes where Sam Waterston was in it were not in the theatrical release because at the time he was still alive, didn't want to be portrayed in the movie. So when it was released in theaters, Sam Waterston scenes apparently were not in there. But it has been restored on the home video releases. So let's see. This, I believe, was the last major movie appearance for Madeline Kahn. She played Martha Mitchell in this one, and she died of cancer at age 57. So this was the last major movie that she was in. The movie was finished just shortly after Nixon's death in 94, so they had that real footage of his funeral added to the end, along with the narrated epilogue at the end, which is actually uncredited but narrated by Oliver Stone himself. Go figure.
Well, there's something interesting that he did that when about 20 minutes before the end of the movie, Nixon wouldn't say it like that. Nixon wouldn't say that.
Right. Yeah.
Oliver Stone would say that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The movie did not win any Oscars, but it was nominated, I believe, for 4 Academy Awards for Best Actor, Anthony Hopkins, Best Supporting Actress, Joan Allen, Best Original Score, John Williams, and Best Original Screenplay. All right. Quick synopsis of this one. In a world where political ambition and personal demons, President Richard Nixon rises to power with his mostly steadfast wife, Pat, and maybe loyal aide, H.R. Haldeman. Nixon's journey from humble beginnings to the nation's highest office is marked by triumph and just a tad little teeny bit of scandal. Witness the epic tale of a leader's fall from grace. Our major moments for this one, we break it down into 10 major moments for you to kind of summarize the movie itself. We jump around in time a little bit, so I kind of did my best to try to, if I could, put some years to some of these. So we start off with the Watergate break-in. Opens with the infamous Watergate break-in by the White House Plumbers, which is a lovely jazz band as well. Sets the stage for the scandal that will ultimately unravel Nixon's presidency. The burglars are arrested, initiating a chain of events that leads to the exposure of illegal activities connected to his administration. We kind of jump to 1973. He's reflecting on Watergate 18 months after the break-in. Chief of Staff Alexander Haig presents Nixon with audio tapes documenting incriminating conversations. As he's listening, he reflects on the scandal's fallout and laments the betrayal by his closest aides. A grim Nixon asks why he hasn't been given a pistol to end his life honorably. We jump to 1972. Through some flashbacks, the infamous smoking gun tape is revealed. Nixon is seen discussing the cover-up of the Watergate break-in with Haldeman. The tape implicates Nixon directly in obstructing justice, showcasing his complicity in the illegal activities of his administration. Complicity was also a good TV show back in the day with Kerry Russell. So it was a lot of fun. We go a little bit further back in time to Nixon's childhood. You know, a little turbulent, you could call it. His upbringing in Yorba Linda, California. The death of his brothers, his strict, hardworking parents were shown as experiences that would form the person that he would become. They kind of shape what we see as being his insecurities and his determination later on, kind of fueling that ambition to succeed at all costs. The movie, in different ways, explores his political career from his early years as a congressman, exposing the alleged communists, to his tenure as vice president under Eisenhower. His relentless pursuit of power is contrasted with moments of vulnerability, and as he ages throughout the movie, you get the sense that the writers and director of this movie want you to see him as someone who is maybe just not entirely there mentally. So very, very driven, but also very insecure, and some of that insecurity kind of grows into more of a, maybe this guy just crazy as the movie goes on.
Oh, he cuckoo bananas, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely part of the portrayal.
Mm-hmm. It highlights some of his complicated relationship with Henry Kissinger, who I mentioned before, played by Paul Sorvino. This portrays Kissinger as both a loyal advisor and a man focused on his public image. Nixon's inner circle debates whether Kissinger is trustworthy, at one point showcasing the paranoia of the president and distrust of all of his closest allies. As the Watergate scandal intensifies, his health deteriorates. The film kind of shows his battle with pneumonia and kind of alongside some heavy use use of alcohol and prescription medications. You know, it kind of compounds everything as he isolates himself from other people and you know, really kind of erodes away at his ability to manage these crises. Nixon reflects on the Bay of Pigs invasion during his time as vice president and its connection to John F. Kennedy's assassination. The film implies that decisions made under Nixon's watch contributed to a series of events that culminated in both the assassination and the Watergate scandal. Nixon resigns in 1974. That's the climax of the film. Mounting evidence of his involvement in Watergate, in an emotional scene, he addresses his staff and boards Marine One, leaving the White House in disgrace. Final moments in office are a mix of defiance, regret, and resignation, literally and figuratively. And then Nixon's...
Okay, quick question for you.
Yeah.
He reflects on the Bay of Pigs during his time as the vice president. Like, that confused me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Bay of Pigs was Kennedy, so he wouldn't have been the vice president at that time.
Right.
So what was like, how did that all line up in the movie? Like, that's where it kind of, the movie lost me a little bit.
It's trying to suggest, and maybe this is true, I'll admit I don't know for sure, but they're trying to suggest that the plans for the Bay of Pigs and other anti-Castro sentiment and actions were drawn up during the Eisenhower administration when Nixon was the vice president, and then they were still in play and on the drawing boards when Kennedy took over in 60.
Okay.
Is the way I understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
And Kennedy and his team supposedly flubbed the execution of the plan.
Yes.
That is the narrative they are going with, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Let's see. And then the film concludes with real footage of his state funeral in 1994. Presidents, political figures from across the spectrum gather to honor him. And this kind of highlights and contrasts against his personal flaws with his lasting impact. And it's kind of an interesting end to the movie because you've spent a decent portion of the movie kind of going back and forth. Like, do you feel sorry for him? You know, was he a guy just trying to do the best he could and things got out of control? Was he the mastermind behind all of this and he is fully culpable for everything that he did? And then you get to the end and it's, you know, everybody's saying nice things about him, and, you know, it's kind of a contrast of, well, the movie made him look really not good, but we're going to end it with, but yeah, he was a president and he did some stuff and we should honor him. And it's, I don't know, that gets into more of the deep thoughts part of things. So I probably should just say that's the last of our major moments and go into our deep thoughts. Which the identity of Deep Thought will not be revealed on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
That was the guy's name, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
that was the informant. I forget who that informant was, but
Mark Felt was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And now the secret informant, Deep Thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All the President's Men is a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. All right. Deep thoughts on this one. Let's just start off with this, and then we can just, the conversation can flow, but don't say anything that you wouldn't want somebody to find out years later when they play back these recordings. Did you like this movie?
You really had to start with that question, huh?
Yeah.
Both of you sighed almost simultaneously.
It's so long. And it's so very filled with that just conspiracy theorist bent to it. But like JFK, I mean, it has its strong points. The cast is outstanding. The performances are good. It's just sometimes the material isn't enough to keep your attention, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, in this one, I almost feel like, in JFK, you're dealing with the assassination of a very charismatic president. And so, and you're also dealing with, the Kevin Costner character that's trying to solve this mystery. In this movie, I feel like there are no good guys.
That's true.
Like, there's nobody. That's one of the things that, while it was an interesting movie, I'll just, lay it out on the table here. Interesting movie, too long, and I'm fully willing to watch a 3 to 4 hour movie. So that's not to say that I, am a person who would be like, nope, anything over 2 hours, I'm not watching. No, I'll watch a long movie. That's fine. But I felt like it was too long. It was very slow in parts, very, all things that I can get through. Because like you said, the performances are great. All the people in this are great. Even the stuff, although I hate to take away lessons about history from an Oliver Stone movie, because it's his take on it, and it's his bent on the whole thing. And part of me wants to be like, well, but at least I learned a lot about Richard Nixon. But did I? Because, maybe. But if I don't know as much about Nixon as I might about some other presidents, I feel like I might have to go do more reading to undo some of Oliver Stone's opinions and some of his tinfoil hat conspiracies. So did this movie give me more work to do rather than something I could be informed by and entertained by? And probably. So much like some of the other historical movies we watch, I'm like, other historical movies, and we just did a couple weeks ago, we did Braveheart and we did Rob Roy. And in those, Pat, I think you said something along the lines of, I enjoy the movie, so can I give some of the historical inaccuracies a pass? Sure. Absolutely. With one like this, filmed in a very documentary style, I think that is a big strike against it. Because totally fine if Oliver Stone wants to make this movie and share his conspiracies and things like that. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, I'd also like to watch a biopic. And I know there's going to be artistic license taken, but I'd like to watch a biopic and at least know that I could probably trust some of the history that's in it. And I don't know that I can do that with Mr. Stone. And the first 20 minutes, Bo, I think I told you this before we started recording. The first 20 minutes of this movie was a bunch of just name dropping. And if I'm coming into this, I'm probably not going to watch a over 3 hour movie if I don't know much about the content. So I don't know if I'm a newbie going, oh, I'd like to learn more about Richard Nixon. Let's take this as my way of learning. But the movie assumes from the get-go that you know who these people are. And when they name drop Dean and Haldeman and Coulson and like all these people, it kind of assumes that you just know who they are.
Did you just say Coulson?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Why did that make you laugh?
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Not that Coulson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chuck Coulson.
The other Coulson.
Coulson. The guy that I know that name because he's a very famous Christian author, and I don't know if he's considered a pastor now, but after he got out of jail, he reformed and is like written a lot of books and made a complete 180 of his life.
Interesting.
But Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson would be awesome as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's where they all sit around and just start name dropping. And I can, Bo, I think I put it to you this way before we started recording. It's kind of like a boring version of The West Wing.
Yeah.
I called him the sedentary Sorkin. That's what I called him. Like nobody's walking and talking. They're all sitting and they're name dropping. And to me, that's just not interesting. if I'm going to watch something with political intrigue, I have enjoyed a lot of Aaron Sorkin, so he is kind of my litmus test for what I'm going to enjoy when it comes to political intrigue. And Oliver Stone is just not. I can appreciate his movies for what they are. I can appreciate the performances and the sheer number of people that he's packed into this movie. But overall, I'm gonna say I don't know that I care for this movie. I appreciate it, and I can appreciate it for what it is, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I just don't think I think I don't like this movie, and I probably wouldn't go back and watch it again. But that's not a knock on the quality of the movie itself.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you're watching multiple times in a couple of years. I mean, it's going to take some time.
Guys, it's a lazy Saturday afternoon. Anybody want to watch Nixon? No.
Said no one ever.
Right. Hey, kids, I was thinking instead of Saturday morning cartoons today, how about we watch Nixon? You guys are going to love it. You might not be ready for it, but your kids are going to love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is your cousin Marvin Berry. You know the the presidential biopic you've been waiting for? Well, take a listen to this. You're going to have to be on the line for like the next 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Better get comfy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those are my thoughts. Patrick, I know you have thoughts.
I'm going to plead the fifth.
There's 18 minutes of tape missing.
That would be a perfect drop to put like our theme tune in. Like, just I'm gonna play the fifth and just turn the lights down low. It's time. I hear what you guys are saying, and my problem. If we could change all the names, right? Just legit change all the names and make this like a take on Greek tragedy, right? I just said Greek tragedy. I don't know if I meant, maybe I meant Shakespearean tragedy. I'm not like, where there's a tragic character with a tragic flaw. Okay. Yeah, okay, English teacher John, that would be Shakespearean tragedy, right?
I'm just curious, is everyone dying at the end?
Well, basically, yes, because it isn't, I mean, I don't think anybody really,
that might be more Shakespearean.
Okay.
Because he likes to kill off all of his characters.
Okay, yeah, so...
When you absolutely positively need to kill every last character in the room, you don't give it to Christopher Marlowe.
Tech 9. So... If I could just delete, and I deleted things that I saw, then I think this could work, right? It all depends on the Americans. You get the right sort, this will work. You get some buckaroo. And that's what I think. I mean, what we see portrayed is definitely like the tragic character that has a tragic flaw. And, I think even one of the things was, my gosh, if he would have just been loved at some point in his life, what he could have been. Right?
Yeah, Kissinger said that at some point, right?
Right. And again, I think I could rewatch this movie if I just did like a fan edit and I just blanked out all the names and just changed it, right? And, the person that was Richard Nixon will now be referred to as Mike Jones. The person that was Henry Kissinger will now be known as, whatever, John Doe and all that kind of thing. I think I would enjoy this. I think my biggest problem when I watch this is, like you said, it's the camera angles, the way it's shot, the pacing, the flow of it. I think just the story being told is compelling. I think it's superb acting in it. It's a John Williams soundtrack. I just like all of those things. My problem is that, okay, if we're portraying something that's supposedly historical, especially one that is comparatively modern, that stretches credulity to the point of this is so inaccurate, right? And that's where I struggle with it. And I think that's the part of the movie that I like. I mean, again, take out all the names and what you see portrayed and the idea of it being tragic, and is it a happy ending? I'm not sure. I just think that's great. But the problem with this is kind of the problem I had with The Doors, where it became all about Jim Morrison, and it was like certain eccentricities of Jim Morrison, right? Like you never got to see in The Doors, you really never got to see him. If you believe The Doors, like he was always on some weird jaunt or drug high, or you never got to see the band, The Doors, actually make their great music. You never got to see them functioning. And so you're kind of led to believe that, my gosh, for the guy's entire life, this is what it was like. It's the same thing here. Like you hear that, man, there was a lot of great diplomacy with China, and there was, all this work being done that he did accomplish. And you never get to see that. You never get to see him functioning. It's always like, even in the places where, he was in China negotiating, he was having he looked overwhelmed. He was distracted. He was having his mind was wandering and all that. So you never get to see him as a functioning politician. And so I feel like everything is being watched through a certain angle where he's struggling with. The character seems to be struggling with mental stability and alcoholism and so on. And so that's the piece that I struggle with. If we're making this about Nixon, again, change all the names, leave the rest of the movie alone, bam, I would be entertained. But this just seems to go so wide of the mark. And then as soon as I start reading about what some of the family take on it was, as soon as the family, whoa, that's not the person we knew, and that wasn't my dad, that wasn't my, it's like, okay, hold on, time out. Now you're portraying someone that's, I don't know. That's the piece that I really struggle with, is just when it's so inaccurate like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had read a couple of things on the family releasing a statement when the movie had come out, and they're like, no. It's, what was the word they used? Reprehensible or something like that? Reprehensible, illegitimate. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So right there, now and that's where I get why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are we making a movie like that? And I really struggle with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not artistic license. And, what story were we trying to tell?
Yeah.
So
Oliver Stone actually, I guess, wrote a response back to the family's response and said that his purpose was, quote, to attempt a fuller understanding of the life and career of Richard Nixon, the good and the bad, the triumphs and the tragedies, and the legacy he left his nation and the world. I believe that those who see our film, regardless of their opinion of Mr. Nixon, will come away with a more empathetic view of him, a man who embodies all the contradictions of our country and our century. But I do think, certain things about, as you get towards the end of this movie, it as we've kind of already said, just in a few different ways, it really portrays him as being just completely derailed. Like, as if he does not. Then part of my concern is, if you're depicting him as being someone who maybe doesn't have the mental faculties to hold the job that he's holding, then can you hold him then responsible for some of the things that he did? And, I mentioned what movies we were doing tonight when we were having dinner. And, then I disappointingly quizzed the kids on what they knew about, who was president in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. And since my wife was an American Studies major and we have a lot of books in our library, we were very disappointed at their answers, but we're going to work on that this summer. We're going to work on making sure everybody knows who the presidents were and all those things. But as we were talking about it, we were talking about what does history or what do, in popular culture, like what do people think of when they think of Richard Nixon versus what are the things that actually got accomplished when he was in office as president? You had the EPA, you had Title IX, you had, I think he did a lot, from what I understand is his administration did a lot of work for Native Americans, for all kinds of good things happened. Like there was a lot of good that happened while he was president. But if you grab a couple of history books and watch this movie, or most of the references, most everybody, in fact, that was the first thing my kids knew was he's the "I'm not a crook" guy.
Right.
And so if somebody's most famous phrase is "I'm not a crook," well, what are you going to think?
He crook.
Right. And sure, he probably was a bit of a crook, as I'm sure all presidents are in some way, shape, or form, because I don't think anybody gets out of the presidency untarnished. But I think what this movie does is, I think any of the good stuff he could have done, I don't think they show it, and it's really just here's all the bad stuff that he did, but oh, look at him. He's mentally incapable or unstable or whatever. So maybe it's not his fault. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt at the end of the movie. I was like, well, what do you want me to do with that? Like, do you want me to be angry at him and blame him? Do you want me to pity him? But there's nothing in there about what are the good things that he did do. Because there are. Right. There's plenty of good things.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing is that, and just like I was saying with the Doors, you never get to see the character presented even-handedly or just even objectively. We're focusing on a very narrow and possibly fictitious portrayal of his personality, right? Like, can we come away with that with saying, okay, well, there was fictionalized stuff, but boy, that was like spot on. That's what it was like talking to President Richard Nixon. And it's like, was it? I really don't know.
Right.
And so when the family comes away and says that was reprehensible, then, okay, obviously then you kind of hit wide of the mark if you're trying to make a film that makes it a sympathetic character.
Right.
Right. Again, change all the names, do you know what I'm saying? Like change all just change it up and write that story with completely fictitious characters, and you got a great story.
Right.
And a movie that maybe you like, maybe you don't, but once you start adding that historical piece, or if it's a biopic, or you got to be careful with. I think you got to be careful with that whole artistic license, and then hiding behind that artistic license. And again, I'll fully tell you, and I know that I've drawn the ire of some of our co-hosts when I say this, but I think I can't not watch this movie as a 47-year-old person in the year 2025, right? Those are the glasses that I'm going to be looking at this movie through. And I think that's the way we're going to judge it. And I can't not do that. I can't watch this movie like it's 1995. You know what I'm saying? Like I can try and get in the vein of it. But I'm going to always look at it like that. And I think when you look at it, okay, you're not only looking at a time period from the 1960s and 1970s, but you're looking at it through the lens of being made in 1995. So what was going on in 1995 and how did we look? Okay. But now we're in 2025 and the amount of conspiracy theory and okay, well, are there facts and alternative facts and what we want to believe or what we choose to believe and all is such a prevalent part of our world, our zeitgeist, right? That when you look at a movie like this and there's conspiracy theories and fictionalized parts and that's being presented, I kind of shy away from it because like I don't want to see any more of that, right? I don't want to see any more fictionalized accounts of a historical figure, especially one that's filled with controversy and like I don't want more of that, right? Show me just the facts, please. Or make it a complete fiction and like keep the historical figures out of it. Like keep it separated. But I don't want any more of that. I'm just I'm weary of that. Do you know what? And like I said, especially when the movie like makes a statement or it goes all the way one way and doesn't really report all the positive things that were going on at the time. And I can't take those glasses off. It's 2025. That's when I'm watching it. So when I look at this, boy, really? Is this what we're watching?
I almost think of, and this is me talking. I haven't read anything from Oliver Stone that says this, but I almost feel like his entire take on the person or character of Richard Nixon in this movie can be summed up with a line from when they do the flashback to when Richard Nixon is trying to play college football. Mm-hmm. And one of the coaches is like, that's the worst football player I've ever seen or the worst athlete I've seen in my life. And then the other guy's like, yeah, but he's got a lot of guts. I kind of feel like that one, I mean, in what ended up being a 3-hour and 12-minute movie, you basically summed up your take on Richard Nixon in 2 sentences. Mm-hmm. Worst blank I've ever seen. Yeah, but he's got guts. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all I needed to know. And if that's the character that you want to show me is a Richard Nixon that is the worst, what do we want to say? He's the worst congressman. He's the worst nominee for president. He's the worst president. He's the worst vice president. I don't know. Like, what are you trying to tell me? You're trying to tell me, look at all the things he tried to do. He wasn't very good at it, according to your movie, but he's got guts. And then look at his childhood. Like, look at what he had to contend with growing up. Yeah, but now look at how he messes everything up and plays with people's lives and gets people killed. And like, yeah, mm-hmm. I just don't know. By the time you come out the other side of this movie, I just don't know what to do with it, because I feel like mm-hmm. the messages I've gotten from, and maybe that's Oliver Stone's point. The message I've gotten from this movie is so contradictory. I don't know what the very limited knowledge I have of the actual historical Richard Nixon leads me to believe that there's got to be more going on than what I know. Yep. Clearly, with everything in history, there's more going on than what I know. There's a lot of opinions out there. I'm sure he did a lot of really bad things. I'm sure he also did a lot of good things. So if I'm watching this movie, I kind of want the director, if this is the director's vision, I want him to tell me, I don't have to be spoon-fed, but I want him to tell me, okay, what do you want me to think about Richard Nixon? And I come away from the end of this movie going, I don't know what Oliver Stone wants me to think about Richard Nixon, and maybe the contradiction, maybe the contradiction is what he wants me to think, is that there is no clear-cut answer, which, okay, I guess so, but then I come out of that going, well, what did I just spend 3.5 hours doing?
So what you're saying, Ambassador Nunclus, is you don't know what to believe.
I don't know what to believe. Mm-hmm. I did. I was so excited that I got to pull a line from Star Trek VI at dinner tonight. Because somebody mentioned something about China, and I said only Nixon could go to China.
Only Nixon could go to China.
Right. And I think that there was some aspects that at least, and I'm not going to pretend to be the expert, but that was, I feel like that whole comparison with John Kennedy, and there was that whole, the idea of Camelot and the young, attractive, athletic guy on one side, and it was the debates, right? And then Nixon came across as being, awkward, uncomfortable, and all this kind of thing. And I remember, okay.
What was it?
And
If you listened to the debate on the radio, you thought Nixon won. If you watched the debate on TV, you thought JFK won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah. And so, well, right there, I feel like this movie took the cue from if you'd watched the debate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But just by your quote, if you listen to the debate, suddenly you have a different perspective on it. Right? And it's like, okay, well, if it's going to be a biopic, then we need to take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then, that whole like, why don't they love me kind of thing. Okay, totally right in line with the whole, like I said, I don't know if it's Greek or Shakespearean or whatever, tragic character that has the flaw.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that and the complete breakdown because, well, they don't love me and all that. But it's like, was that really accurate to, the whole reality of the thing? I found that interesting, where he went and he met with the anti-war protesters.
Yeah.
And I read about that, and I guess something similar to that happened. Although I don't think he snuck out and then all of a sudden the Secret Service marched in. My understanding is he went out there and the Secret Service was with him, from the beginning, at least the little bit of reading I did. And I think that could have been a good aspect where, in meeting with the protesters and him talking and them talking is just that he wasn't hearing, he didn't have a good feeling for a certain swath of the country. Right. And I would have liked to see more of that. That was a real thread that kind of wove through, in real life is just out of touch with a large swath of the public. And wasn't that the whole thing, the silent majority? And then it ended up being, well, the silent majority is kind of turning with. And I think, that could be something, with any, especially in our current time, I think that could be a thread of a historical time period in the late 1960s being told through the lens of the 1990s, watched in 2025, is that idea of, okay, the voting demographic changing and the person in power. Are you really in touch with what, quote unquote, the people want? And then do you understand, when we say the people, it's not one monolithic block, right? Within that, there's lots of divisions. And whenever, it's funny because it doesn't matter what time period, not that I'm an expert of it, but you go back, I'll think back to that simpler time when everyone was united in the same, and you found out okay, no, this person kind of built a coalition of these different demographics that gave them enough to move ahead. And even Abraham Lincoln was talked about often in this movie. And then you start reading and again, of the few books I've read on Abraham Lincoln, that Team of Rivals book, he was able to assemble enough of a coalition, right, to actually move ahead. But even within the Union, there was still political wrangling and just, discord and all that kind of stuff going on. So I guess my long-winded way of saying it is that would be something real. That would be something interesting to interrogate in a movie. I don't feel like we got that in this. And so, again, I'm just going to come back to my point because I just don't want to be bragging on the movie and saying, garbage. And I don't want to say that. But I think if you're going to put names in there and you're going to make them historical characters, we have to have a little bit more historical in there and not as much conspiracy theory and, and that whole, well, I'm taking artistic license. I mean, I hate to say this, but, I'm going to sound like, what was it, Judge Dredd? There should have been a law against it. That's
okay. You can take you take the lethal weapon route. It's just been revoked.
Yeah, exactly. Then just don't do that. Change all the names, make it complete fiction, and tell your story that you want to tell.
Pat, if you or anybody else ever find that simpler time you were talking about, I'd love to know when it was.
Yeah, I know.
That simpler time when we all got along.
Yeah,
we all just get along.
Now,
yeah.
Interestingly enough, I almost think, and I'm probably totally wrong in this, but I almost feel like back in 1995, the way they portrayed Nixon would still be slightly shocking to people. I feel like, with the language and the swearing and all that kind of stuff, because we still very much had our private life and our public life, right? And there was no way our public figures would ever talk like that or speak like that or use that language and whatever. And they did bring it up. And I want to say that was a thing. Like, once a lot of these tapes came to light, it was like, that's how this guy speaks? He uses that kind of language? Like, oh my gosh. And I just think we had this tendency to believe that people don't speak like that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in 1995, depending on which side of the political spectrum you're on, you would either go, oh my, or I knew it. He really was blah, 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 because my guy had never speak that way. I almost feel like now, 30 years later, listening to the quote unquote public, discourse, I think it's just like, well, they all talk that way and they're all a bunch of bums and they are, rah, 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 or that's okay because they speak that way and they speak the truth. And now I get to speak that way. And I almost feel like that was, for me, not shocking at all and not surprising. It was just like, okay, but I feel like 30 years ago, that might have been have a little bit more shock value in the film.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like no Quaker I've ever heard of. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not once, this is why he's probably not a very good Quaker. Not once did he ever make oatmeal in the entire movie.
Mm-mm. No, there was no oatmeal.
Yeah, really disappointed in that.
Heck, man.
Really disappointed in that. Going back to what you mentioned earlier, it reminds me so much of King Lear. Like a lot of the King Lear and Ran, the Kurosawa movie Ran is based on King Lear. Like that whole idea of like, oh, my children don't love me. Well, then I'm destroying the whole country. Mm-hmm. Like, well, okay. He's another person depicted as kind of a madman, for the want of the love of his children or family, or if you want the American public to be considered his children, then whatever. But yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we head into our 3 questions? I originally had more questions, but I redacted them, so we're down to 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good call.
Well, and like I said, isn't like the part of the whole Watergate thing was, and I think someone even said it in here, and that was kind of the convention, at least the way, we talked about it when I was growing up at this time, was if they would have just come out and said, yep, blew it, did that, done, it probably would have been a tempest in a teacup and would have just moved right on. But instead, it was, it's like that West Wing title, The Fall's Gonna Kill You, right? It was the cover up. It was the trying to lie about it. It was all of that. And that's kind of what, combined with being stuck in the Vietnam War, trying to get out of that, coming on the heels of a presidential assassination, it just, like, that was the piece that really threw it all off. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right. Question number 1. Which actor has best portrayed an historical president?
Paul Giamatti and John Adams.
There you go. That was one of my answers as well.
He was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I need to see that.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
Is that the one based off the book by, I can't remember the name of the author?
McCullough?
Yeah.
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 Okay. I was going to say Daniel Day-Lewis with Lincoln.
There you go.
That was my other answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said best portrayal of a president or a U.S. president?
I just said an historical president.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yes, you could have gone with something other than the U.S. if you wanted to.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, those were my two answers. Daniel Day-Lewis, because his Abraham Lincoln is just amazing. Paul Giamatti as John Adams was my other answer too. I thought he did a really nice job. I'm finding that there's a lot of other, because I looked up some different lists and I wanted to see like pictures of how close did they come to looking like the other president. And there's, there's a lot of actors who have portrayed actual real presidents, but I was finding that I haven't seen a lot of those movies. So,
yeah, I was looking at a list too, and I was like, wow, I don't know what all these are.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I should.
One that was kind of fun was it Ben Franklin? Not a president, but, what was the... I'm blanking on who played him. Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas played Ben Franklin on an Apple TV series. That one was kind of fun. That was pretty recent. That was within the last year or so. I think it was just called Franklin. Yeah, that was kind of a fun one. But yeah, Paul Giamatti was great. I mean, it's been years since we've seen the John Adams one, but I remember that being a really good one. All right, question number 2. What is your favorite Oliver Stone movie?
It might be Any Given Sunday.
I was kind of leaning towards that too.
Just because it's not nuts. No, it's, I don't know.
It's not overly political.
Yeah.
And that's kind of refreshing, like after watching some of his others. Like I appreciate JFK and I appreciate this one. And, to a degree, I also like The Doors. But it just, I don't know. Something about Any Given Sunday, it just feels like there's a lot less conspiracy when you're talking about, which is a weird thing to say in 2025, a lot less conspiracy when you're talking about football.
That's sort of why I was like, gosh, am I liking it for the wrong reasons? But no, I think you're right. I think it's all about the fact that it's not as political. It's not as conspiracy-y.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have picked Wall Street.
Yeah.
That was mine.
That's yours?
That was mine.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's got that scary Wilford Brimley in it, so.
Bringing that diabetes.
That's right. Hey, we our boys got to stick together. Yeah. Yeah, I had Any Given Sunday was probably, I wrote down a bunch, and it was either going to be Wall Street, possibly Platoon, or Any Given Sunday. And I think I might go with you, Bo. I might do Any Given Sunday. All right, and finally, question number 3, food question, because we have to have those every now and then. One of Richard Nixon's favorite foods was cottage cheese with ketchup. And not with cottage cheese and ketchup, but also wheat germ was another one he enjoyed. What's a food or food combination you enjoy that might seem strange to other people? I don't know what seems strange to other people because I'm out of touch with the American public. So I had to ask my wife this question. I was like, what's something that I eat that's weird? And she's like, I don't know any of it is weird. Some of it's very Southern. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because there are certain things that I will do. There are certain things I will put on other foods or dip other foods in that when I have requested it at a restaurant or somewhere up here, they look at me like, wait, you want what for what?
Can you give it for instance?
Well, so apparently I like putting honey on everything.
Oh.
And that the first time I ever went somewhere and had chicken nuggets up here in this area, and the dipping sauce I requested was honey.
You got a hard time for that?
I was given a hard time for that.
Huh.
They were like, you mean honey mustard? I was like, no, I mean honey. Why do you want honey? Like, put my chicken nuggets in? Like what? I grew up like the first 10 to 12 years of my life dipping chicken nuggets in honey. What are you supposed to dip them in? Barbecue, sweet and sour. Like, wait, what? No, honey. That's what chicken nuggets go in.
I'm going to be honest, man. I don't want to undercut like your uniqueness.
Yeah,
but like I did the same thing. Like that was honey was that's odd that people give you a hard time for that.
My wife said it's either very Southern or it's the diabetes in me wanting things that are sweet.
Oh.
Well, so I decided I have a demon inside of me that wants sugar. And that's what the diabetes is. It's actually a demon. There's no medical explanation for it. His name is Diabetocles, and he's a demon that lives inside of me.
Well, I'll tell you this, like there's sometimes like I'll make stuff and I'll just put on like the spicy giardiniera.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like sometimes I'll do like, I'll slice some tomato and then put some veggies in like a tortilla, like do like a wrap. And I'll pile on like the giardiniera and get that real spicy, like oily kind of pickly kind of thing going. And then I'll just drizzle some honey on it. Oh, there you go. And it's like the spicy and sweet type thing. So I don't know if that's like in line with what you're saying or not, but I think honey can add a little bit. And then there's spicy honeys out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have some spicy honey.
So, yeah, I don't know if it.
Now, the one thing I refer to them as the poor man's sopapilla because I don't have actual fried dough to make it more fun. But as a kid growing up in Texas, like that was a pretty regular dessert at like a Tex-Mex restaurant that we'd go to is sopapillas, and you'd put honey, on or in the sopapillas. And so since I don't have that, sometimes I will warm up a tortilla and put honey in the tortilla and then roll it up and eat that. So but none of that seems weird to me. Like, and my wife was even like, that's not really very weird. That's just kind of like Southern.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that doesn't seem that far from like the Norwegian delicacy of lefse.
Yeah.
And like you do lefse, you sometimes you either just sprinkle sugar in it or you put honey. I don't know about honey. No, you sprinkle sugar in it.
Okay.
Or butter, so.
The one that we do, and I had not eaten this until meeting my lovely wife, and I don't think of it as weird. I think of it as delicious. And if people think it's weird, then they just haven't encountered it yet, is she would always make a peanut butter and bacon sandwich. And at first I was like, that's weird. Never would think of putting peanut butter and bacon together, but it's not weird. It's excellent.
Yeah, there you go.
So in scouring my mind, I don't know that I have anything that's as weird as cottage cheese and ketchup. Before you guys give your answers, let me ask you this. When was the last time you ate cottage cheese?
Oh, we have it all the time.
Do you really? Okay.
Cottage cheese, because the food I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Cottage cheese and Ruffles.
Really?
Just scoop the cottage cheese on a Ruffles potato chip and go to town.
Okay. I feel like I need to try cottage cheese again because I was given it as a child, and I don't know if it was a consistency thing or a flavor thing. I did not like it.
It definitely has a texture that I am honestly surprised my wife likes.
Okay.
Because she is things with food and texture.
Yeah.
And cottage cheese has a texture that is not standard.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
I honestly think it's been about 40 years since I've had cottage cheese.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yeah. I remember having it as a child and not liking it. And I can't remember a time that I've eaten cottage cheese since I was like 5 years old. Because I would just refuse to eat it.
Huh.
So maybe I need to try it. Maybe I'll get some Ruffles. Okay. Pat, what's your weird food?
I was going to say that I had cottage cheese first and last time. Not last, like never again.
Yeah.
But the last time I had cottage cheese was June of 2022.
Okay.
You've got that date right on there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was picking up. I never really had cottage cheese, and we were up in Wisconsin visiting friends, and we were going to bring some food and snacks. So we picked up some of those pretzel salty pretzel, like the long sticks and
Yeah.
everything. And the guy behind me in line up in River Falls, Wisconsin was like, dude, you ever had those with cottage cheese? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And he goes, go get some cottage cheese. And then he waited for me to go get the cottage cheese out of the line and got upset when I didn't go get the cottage cheese. But he was just like, go get the cottage cheese, dip them in. It's fantastic. It's the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to get the cottage cheese now, but I promised to try. And he's like, you're never going to do it, are you? And I'm like, well, maybe not, but I just met you like 30 seconds ago. So I don't know that I owe you an explanation. But actually, when we got to our friend's house and I told the story, they're like, okay, well, let's go try this out. And so they got cottage cheese. And I think it was sort of like, Bo, what you were saying with the Ruffles. I think it was like the salty snack in the cottage cheese is the taste that they were going for. But that was my time that I tried cottage cheese.
Why does your story about you being in line and being accosted by this guy sound like the most Wisconsin thing I've heard all day?
Right.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, but it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It went down. That's how it rolled.
Because what are you going to get angry about? You're going to get angry that you just recommended cottage cheese to this guy and he's not moving right now to go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and he's just like, no, you're not going, are you? Well, I said, no, I'm not right now because I don't have a way to refrigerate it.
Mm-hmm. It's not an excuse.
But yeah, no, that was kind of where he went down with it. And I'm like, dude, I promise you, as soon as I can, I will try the cottage cheese thing.
Okay.
I said, I'm kind of more of a mustard guy. He's like, no, not mustard. Cottage cheese. Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was fun though.
Sounds like it.
Weird,
Yeah.
weird food. I don't see. It's not weird to me. But here's the deal: is like anything that I make, my family usually won't try.
Okay.
Any of my family, children, family by marriage, brothers, sisters, parents. Like I'll be like, yeah, I tried out this. I made this rice. Come check this out. And they're all just like, no. And it's not weird to me. Now, my nieces will try some of the smoothies that I'll make. No one else will try it. And there's times that Daniela will look and be like, oh, that wrap looks amazing. Can you make me one? And she'll like go to town on that. But 99 times out of 100, they won't try anything.
Huh.
And it's just weird to me because I'm like, well, nothing I'm eating is like super exotic. But yeah, anything I eat is just weird to people. And I don't fully understand that.
Okay.
The only one that I can maybe entertain is sometimes if I'm like going all in for ice cream and I'm just like having like a multi-scoop sundae, I'll be like, okay, I'll have a scoop of vanilla and a scoop of sherbet and a scoop of like mint. And so like sometimes people say like the tastes like that's, and then a scoop of Blue Moon, you know, and that's like, oh, that's too weird, you know? And
it's an interesting combination.
Yeah. It's like maybe that's the weirdest, but to my mind, what I eat is normal.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't eat that much weird, complex kind of stuff. It's more just like, I don't know. I don't fully get it, but
okay. All right.
No one trusts the food that I choose.
All right. I mean, probably the weirdest thing I've ever eaten would be octopus, but that's like, it's not something I eat regularly. So I don't think it quite fits the boundaries of the question, because apparently that was something that Nixon ate regularly, was the cottage cheese with ketchup.
Yeah, that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mayo and ketchup is a thing, right?
Like together?
Yeah.
Not on top of a burger?
Well, like you mix mayo and ketchup together and then like dip stuff in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I've seen that, and it makes sense.
Okay.
I wouldn't, but I'm not going to fault anybody else for doing it.
I guess I'm with John on that one. I probably wouldn't, like...
I don't like mayo.
I don't like mayo on my French fries.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do.
You know, in France, that's what they put in their French fries. They drown them in that stuff.
But at the same, like, I also don't, but I don't usually put mayonnaise on my burger. But I don't mind it either. If that makes any sense.
Yep. I don't eat mayo on anything. I just seem to recall ketchup and mayo going together. I will mix ketchup and mustard together. like swirl it around and dip fries in it and all that. I don't know if that's weird or not.
Okay. Yeah, no. Sometimes I keep my food separate, so sounds interesting though.
Do you ever do ketchup and mustard on a burger?
Oh yeah, I'll do those together on a burger. But yeah, I don't know if just like swirling it together to then dip a fry in. I don't know that I've ever done that. I'm more of a one sauce kind of person.
Gotcha.
But I'm sure the flavors are interesting. All right. Well, that's all going to do it for Nixon. If you have any weird foods that you'd like to share with us or any thoughts on the 1995 movie Nixon, feel free to let us know. This is our History Month. We're almost done with our History Month. We have our Patreon episode this month was Pop Culture Rundown 1995. Patreon short is Wolfman from 2025. And this month so far, we've had our history movies, Apollo 13, Braveheart, Rob Roy, Indiana Jones, and The Last Crusade was our 10th anniversary rewatch. Nixon was this week. Next week is Les Miserables, the 10th anniversary concert. So stretch out those vocal cords, everybody, because we're going to come in singing next week.
Boy.
1 week more. Another week, okay, we'll leave it till next week. Oh, but I might have an entire musical written for maybe it's you know what? Are we jumping the shark as an episode, as a podcast, if we do our musical episode during the 10th season? I mean,
maybe.
Eventually everybody does a musical episode. Star Trek even did a musical episode.
They did.
Okay. All right.
A couple of them.
Challenge accepted.
Do you hear all your hosts singing the song of Angry Pod?
There we go.
The song of people that won't watch the movie. I don't know.
The movie because it's odd. There you go.
Because the movies, if they're odd.
Yeah. I do have when I had the student teacher many years ago.
Beating of your head
there you go.
Against the wall when you would rather be
reading in bed,
watching Well Dead.
Oh,
what?
I said reading in bed.
Reading in bed. Reading in bed is nice.
That's better than watching while dead. Wow.
Yep. Well, some movies. I'm saying
that's a little dark. You gotta get to the plumb the depths of past darkness.
You got your it turns a little later at night, and you all of a sudden we're like suddenly watching Cool World or Howard the Duck or
or my list of the revisit for our 10th anniversary. Right?
Yes. Right. Yeah. Exactly that. Mm-hmm.
What was it? Cool World.
Yeah.
Cool as ice or the duck.
Yeah. It's just
anything to make Dennis watch Howard the Duck again
would just be worth it.
That's All right. We have some slots left for this year. So
the thing is, you won't play along. You just won't do it.
He just won't show up. Yeah, that's right.
Fine.
Not gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna do it. Read my lips. No new taxes. Not gonna do it.
Wouldn't be prudent.
Done.
Wouldn't be prudent. Not gonna do it.
Well done.
1,000 points of light.
Coming together.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for being here with me, for diving into the 3+ hour epic that is Nixon. And I feel like we've conquered Tricky Dick. So, thank you for being here for that.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm not sure how to respond to that.
That is the correct response.
I suppose.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, say good night, Dick.
Oh, no.
There it is. And now it's time to turn the lights down low.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock, they're powerful or odd. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can't choose, even when you lose. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Please have a word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions. 3 Cruise share our love.